The details of this must be carefully explained. When a person looks at something, listens to something, eyes and ears move and follow the things they have passed. These movements are all underlings. When the heavenly ruler follows them in their task, it means to live together with demons. I found this especially if I try to wake up to a radio alarm. If the first thing you hear in the morning is music, my consciousness just goes out to it, and I lose all my dream recall. And all of a sudden I'm living with demons. See? When a person looks or listens to something, eyes and ears move and follow it till they've passed. These movements are underlings. And when the heavenly ruler follows them, it's to live together with demons.
You got demons in your house, Meredith?
It's only when you turn them on, you know. They mostly have switches.
If now, during every movement and every moment of rest, a person lives together with people and not with demons, then the heavenly ruler is the true man. When he moves, and we move with him, then the movement is the root of heaven. When he is quiet and we are quiet with him, then this quietness is the cave of the moon. When he unceasingly alternates movement and rest, go on with him unceasingly in movement and quietness. When he rises and falls with inhaling and exhaling, rise and fall with him. That is what is called going to and fro between the root of heaven and the cave of the moon.
Now that paragraph and the one following have to do with the timing of the movement of the energy and going with the movement of the energy, and it's intuitive. It's not that obscure, but you can feel. You have to go with it when it flows. When it's there, you rise with it. When it isn't, you don't try to force it. And I think it relates to what you do in the meditation. When you move from your centering to your prayer time, and whether you can try to move too quickly to prayer, or whether you stay too long in the silence and don't release. So think of that as we look at paragraph 91. When the heavenly heart still preserves calm, movements before the right time is the fault of softness. When the heavenly heart is already moved, the movement that follows afterwards in order to correspond with it is a fault of rigidity. As soon as the heavenly heart is stirring, one must immediately mount upward wholeheartedly to the house of the creative. Now that's the pituitary. Thus the spirit light sees the summit. This is the leader. This movement is in accord with time. The heavenly heart rises to the summit of the creative, where it expands in complete freedom. Then suddenly it demands the deepest silence, and one must lead it speedily and wholeheartedly into the yellow castle. Thus the eyes behold the central yellow dwelling place of the spirit. Now, the main way in which I experience this is, we have a lot of preparatory exercises for meditation, the Lord's Prayer and breathing and so on, but when you've been meditating successively on a regular basis, sometimes you sit down and it's just there. You do not need to prepare. If you insist on rigidly going through your meditation steps, you lose it. You may not rise with it. So that you see the caution. As soon as the heavenly heart is stirring, one must immediately mount upward wholeheartedly. You've got to get right into the heart of your affirmation, the spirit of the affirmation, and sail or coast or glide with that. But if you rigidly go back to your procedure, then you may not have that rising of the heavenly heart or the pituitary feeling subsequently in the rest of that meditation period.
I would recommend to you trying now and then is 2 o'clock meditation. I'm talking about 2 a.m. If you think about it before you go to sleep, you tell yourself you will wake up just right at 2 o'clock. And you think about it and repeat it a couple of times. You wake up. Now, I pushed the group at camp on the youth activities this I was up at camp for the youth program. It's supposed to be 16 through 25 to 30, and our age limit has jumped a little bit, but we've had some very old-looking youngsters there. But I pushed them in small groups got them into cabins together, and suggested the 2 o'clock meditation. And some began to work with that. Now, I could not, of course, not do something that recommend something I wouldn't do, so I woke up at 2 o'clock. And one of those mornings, I caught this kind of thing, Herb. It really, when you change pace and don't, I wasn't going through any rigmarole at all, I didn't do anything, as you said, but was able to move right into a meditative state. It is so quiet. There's nobody doing anything. There's very little going on around you up there. The little night animals howling a little bit, but nothing. Try it sometimes. It'll break your regimented kind of approach to meditation. And it just might turn you on so that you could use it. And you can use it for 7 days. Whatever you decide with. I'll push this a bit. When the desire for silence comes, not a single thought arises. He who is looking inward suddenly forgets that he's looking. At this time, body and heart must be left completely released. All entanglements have disappeared without a trace. Did I read this? Then I no longer know at what place the house of my spirit and my crucible are. If a man wants to make certain of his body, he cannot get at it. This condition is the penetration of heaven into earth, the time when all wonders return to their roots. So it is when the crystallized spirit goes into the space of energy. That's that sinking down of the energy.
Crystallized spirit, you see, would be when that movement is from energy into manifestation. And part of that, I think, relates to the pituitary and the gonads from heaven to earth. The one is the circulation of the light. When one begins, it is at first still scattered and one wants to collect it. The 6 senses are not active. This is the cultivation and nourishment of one's own origin. The filling up of the oil when one goes to receive life. When one is far enough to have gathered it, one feels light and free and need not take the least trouble. This is the quieting of the spirit in the space of the ancestors, the taking possession of former heaven. First mention of oil. Some associations about oil. One, Christ means anointed one. That's the whole meaning of it. It's, when in the 23rd Psalm we say, He anointeth my head with oil, we are talking about that movement of the energy upward to the pineal and quickening that Christ center with the anointing. Now, remember the parable about the 10 virgins who some retain some oil for the coming. He comes like a thief in the night. That means when you're meditating, you cannot program the appearance of this. All of a sudden it's there, and that's why you have to rise with it when it happens. But you need to have some oil in reserve so that there will be that kind of energy when the moment comes for the release of that. But I think sometimes we come to a point of release but don't have the energy to bring it into manifestation. We haven't been holding or conserving or preparing for that.
When one is so far advanced that every shadow and every echo has disappeared, so that one is entirely quiet and firm, this is refuge within the cave of energy, where all that is miraculous returns to its roots. One does not alter the place, but the place divides itself. This is incorporeal space, where 1,000 and 10,000 places are one place. This is again that breaking down of the time-space operation. I mean, one does not alter the time, but the time divides itself. This is immeasurable time, and all the eons are like a moment. That's putting it more definitely regarding the breakdown of the barriers of the three-dimensional time-space business we work in.
This is a good definition, in other words, of the fourth dimension. This is incorporeal space, where 1,000 and 10,000 places are at one place. This, by the way, is why we can speak of a spiritual master that is individually present with one individual and individually present with another at a great distance. There is a breakdown of the limitations of time and space when you move to that next dimension. One does not alter the time, but the time divides itself. This is immeasurable time. As long as the heart has not attained absolute tranquility, it cannot move itself. One moves the movement and forgets the movement. This is not movement in itself. Therefore it is said, if, when stimulated by external things, one moves, it's the impulse of the being. If, when not stimulated by external things, one moves, it is the movement of heaven. We're still talking, I think, about that particular response of the pituitary that is being sought. The being that is placed over against heaven can fall and come under the domination of the impulses. The impulses are based upon the fact that there are external things. They are thoughts that go on beyond one's own position. Then movement leads to movement. But when no idea arises, the right ideas come. That's the true idea. When things are quiet and one is quite firm, and the release of heaven suddenly moves, is this not a movement without purpose? Action through non-action has just this meaning. Now, as we address the whole book and remember the title of it, that we're looking for a secret, the mentioning of the secret on page 1 of the text says, the secret of the magic of life consists in using action in order to attain non-action. Now we're going to begin to readdress this in the next few paragraphs, but this is it. Without purpose, movement without purpose, action through non-action has just this meaning.